Hi guys, Ian here, aka Hura Mantra. Welcome to my channel and to another video. And this is part 2 of the exploring soul nature, and I did part 1 a couple of days ago. And I think where I left off on that one really was talking a bit about that myself personally. I'd had some difficulty in distinguishing the difference between mind experiences and soul experiences, and I thought a lot about that, and made me realise that that's probably because we are not like a watch, are we, where you can take us apart into our individual cogs and that everything is entirely separate. We're not like that. We are more like a symphony, I guess, where you might be able to identify the individual instruments playing, but what they create in combination is something much more than the sum of their individual parts. And it made me focus a bit more on mind and soul differences so that I could do the part 2 of this video. Excuse my coughing. And I think the thing that solidified the differences for me is when I thought about what I understand of the construction of the human being. And I've mentioned this a few times in my other videos about kind of spirit, soul and body. And it made me realise that the mind of Ian, through the personality of Ian, which is speaking to you right now, will not last forever. There'll come a time when this body will die through whatever reason, and the mind of Ian will cease to exist. The personality of Ian will cease to exist. But the soul, that is me, will not cease to exist. So it made me realise that the first difference is that the mind is temporary. The mind is of the current incarnation. And I'm going to try not to go all over the place with this, because you know what I'm like. But I think it's worth just mentioning for a very short while many lives. Now, I never used to believe this at all. Never used to believe reincarnation, partly and probably mostly because of my Christian background. But now I see it as being eminently sensible. But it isn't about coming back as a cat or a dog, but it is about repeating a physical existence a number of times so that we can glean as much as we, not as much as we can, but as much as we need to evolve spiritually. So the mind and the personality last one lifetime, but the soul lasts many lifetimes. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be a bit controversial here, but as my understanding of these things kind of solidifies, I don't think that the entirety of the soul is immortal. What do I mean by that? Well, what I'm coming to believe is that the soul indwells the body and the mind of the current manifestation, the current existence. But when that existence ends and the soul has taken its experience of that existence, that it repeats that process many times. But why? Why does the soul thirst for experience? Because in doing so, it builds the understanding and experience of the I, not this I, the capital I. That is the core of our consciousness, the eternal I that is indwelt by the divine spark, by the spirit of the infinite. And it is the spirit and the I and the consciousness part of the soul, which is eternal. But the sensing part of the soul, the thinking part, the learning part of the soul, I think that when its job is done, is no longer required. Like our bodies at the end of our lifetimes. It is the instrument of the evolution of the I and of the spirit. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit now before I lose myself. So the mind then is really the instrument of the body, isn't it? We're in this physical world, we experience all that we experience, the wonderful and terrible things, and from those experiences we extract something. We extract experience. My dogs are going to have a mad 5 minutes. And we are changed as a result of that experience. We are more than we were before we had it. Now, whether that's a positive experience or whether it's a negative experience, we have been exposed to it. We have gained something from it. And that is the purpose of living, to experience life. Now, it is said that, all of us, the purpose of all of our lives is, and it's the Hermetic sort of view of things, that every individual being is just one being. It is the universe experience in itself. I'm not going to go down that track, and not today. So the mind then is the instrument of the body. The mind then is also the instrument of the soul in this lifetime. It allows us to experience, it allows us to accumulate. And the soul is the instrument of the I, the eternal I, the consciousness part of us that is indwelt by spirit and which is eternal. And so we can see that the soul has, I won't say 3 functions, but it has 3 modes of operating, if you like. It is a sensing soul. It experiences. And look, let's just give an example of that. And the more we go into this, the more that I I think this thing is too big for my mind to comprehend. Have you ever had a time in your life where you've experienced joy? It doesn't matter what caused you that joy, but that overwhelming joy, well, do you know what? No one else can experience that. That is yours completely and entirely. You cannot share that. No one can share that with you. They can see your joy and they can experience their own joy as a result of it, but they cannot know that which is yours in your inner world. It is entirely yours. And really and truly, we are entirely alone, aren't we, in our inner world? Because nobody can know what it means to be us. Even in physical life, we can tell people how something feels, we can tell people of our experience, but they can't know it like we can. That is an inner soul experience, which is entirely private. Which brings me back to something else that I read, but I understand more deeply now, that the soul communes only with itself. It reflects on itself, it reflects on its creator, and that it is entirely self-sufficient and entirely complete in and of itself. I'm not saying that in physical existence we are entirely self-sufficient and complete by ourselves, because we know that if you lock someone up in solitary confinement, it has a very damaging effect on their mental health. But I begin to see something else, that the more that you understand your spiritual self, the more that doesn't apply. The more that you do not experience loneliness. You do not experience aloneness as being negative, because you see that that is your natural state. of oneness with yourself in your inner world, which no one can actually share with you. Yeah, what did I say about tangents? So the soul then, the sensing soul, the soul which experiences, the thinking soul, and I don't mean thinking in the way that we think in our, in our cognitions. I mean the thinking soul that is generational, that continues through many incarnations, that distills out of experience, that grows in awareness as a result of that which it has experienced through its own sensing. So the sensing soul, the thinking soul, and then the consciousness soul, perhaps the highest part of the soul that is joined in a sense with the I, the eternal sense of beingness. The I before which all things pass. The I which is the witness of all things. The I which is indwelt by the spirit of the infinite, the eternal I consciousness. And I wondered if, if the universe, if the infinite one, if the source, if the Ein Sof, whatever your concept of divinity is, what was the reason for this? Why not create something complete, and why go through this growing process? And when I thought of that some time ago, the strangest thing came into my mind, and it was of a plant, and it was the difference between a cutting and a seed. Now, if you take a cutting of a plant, it's an exact duplicate, isn't it? And although, depending on its environment, it may not grow to be exactly the same as the parent plant, genetically it is the same. It is a copy. It is not individual. But a seed has all the potential of the parent plant, but it grows and becomes something more and different itself. And I think that is the difference between us, maybe, and the angelic beings, who are created beings with purpose and with no free will as such, for their will is the will of the infinite. But we, on the other hand, are like spiritual babies. Our I has to grow and form and become all that it can become. And that becoming occurs through soul experience and many lifetimes. And some of this I've always kind of known in theory, but I haven't known it in the understanding in my inner self. And with all spiritual theories, it's no good if we just know them intellectually. We have to explore them. We have to plant them within ourselves and chew them over and reflect on them so that they become something living within us. And when that happens, those spiritual principles change us. We see things differently. We see the world differently. We see ourselves differently. Yeah, soul nature. So much more than mind. So much more than intelligence. So much more than personality. Okay, well, I think I'm going to end here. I got so many more thoughts going through my mind, but I'll save those for another video. Anyway, it's been great to chat to you. Thank you for listening, and See you guys again soon. Bye for now.